call it the idea of delighting in another. Again, this is likely many of you do this without really naming it, but being mindful of it and intentionally creating a space for it can be really life-changing for others. So in a nutshell, it's the capacity to affirm the other, first and foremost, first by seeing their goodness, and then outwardly manifesting our love and delight in them. So the first interior act of love is allowing oneself to be moved by their goodness, their beauty, their strength, even their vulnerability. Then, only secondarily, do we take action for their good. So we can misunderstand the life of virtue or moral action if we put emphasis solely on what I do for another, instead of what I do for them in response to having first been moved by their goodness. Does that make sense? So ideally, the charitable acts that we do for others should be preceded by first being moved and loved. And if we don't do this, the other person's likely to get the sense that they're a charity case, right? That we're doing it because we're so good, not because they're so good. There's not a goodness in them that's moving us to help them, right? So of course, because we're weak humans, we often can be blind to the good of another. So in these moments, we must ask the Lord to conform our hearts to His, so that we may see the truth of this person through His gaze of love. And what a beautiful way this is, right? To allow our hearts to actually be conformed to God's, right? We're like, Lord, give me your heart. It's not only good for this person, but it's like a place of intimacy with the Lord. So this reality of delighting in is a psychological reality that can be so transformative to others and to us if we really strive to allow the Lord to grow this capacity within us. Right? It's psychologically good for us to see the others light up, when we come into a room, right? Or to see someone smile upon us. It affirms our very being. It forms us. It actually frees us to be ourselves. So it's good to kind of reflect upon, when have I experienced that in my own life, to like taste that. And this is what we're hoping, this is what we want to give. This is transformative to those that we interact with and love. So yeah, right. We all know we're from New York, or y'all in Detroit. These big cities, right, can be the loneliest places in the world. How powerful it would be if each one of us would strive to see the other as the Lord does, and love them with the purity of His love. It is His love that others need. His love heals and penetrates hearts. So give Him permission to use you as an instrument for His grace. Right? How much healing could come through the many seemingly little moments of your day, your interactions at work, or again with your family and friends, your interactions with the parish. How many people in this parish are so hungry to actually know the truth of who they are? Right? This is how we begin to build a culture of life in which others may come to experience and be nourished by the true love of God. So this intentional spiritual love cuts through the negative voices that stifle so many today, and says to each person with reverence, you are worthy of my presence, of my time, of my love, right? And in this love, lives are awakened and changed. A woman we had served returned to visit the sisters after years after living with us. So we have a compound where women live with us. And upon her return, she was so proud to tell us the news of her many accomplishments. And she ran through all that had happened and completed the picture by saying, it's funny. I'm just now beginning to experience myself as a person the way you always knew me to be.
Beautiful.
Right? Like we can hold out a vision for others, and it gives them a space to grow into. Right? So we are all called to bring this to each soul in the world, right? To tell them that you matter to God. So on this, just speaking about, knowing ourselves before the gaze of God, just wanted to say a little word about prayer, Gaudium says, one of the Vatican II documents says, God reveals man to himself. So right, because of this, we can only know the full truth of ourselves before his gaze. So I just want to, a couple of things that have just been really formative in my own life, and some of you, again, I think you're all here because you felt the nudge of the Lord draw you, so yeah, so I'm sure you all have a beautiful prayer. But just a couple things on prayer. St. Ignatius of Loyola, who started the Jesuits, right, he gave us so much in the spiritual life, the discernment of spirits and rules of discernment. But there's just one point that he would say about prayer that has really been so formative to mine, and so I just share it with you. But he would instruct his the priests and brothers of his order to begin prayer by placing themselves before the Lord's presence. So even before you make the sign of the cross, right? Just know who you're before. You know, allow his gaze, allow yourself to feel like the rays of his gaze, you know, upon you, and look back at him. Yeah, so many times we can just jump into prayer, right? And it's like, I'm doing something. But we don't do that with other people, you know, like when we go out to dinner with someone or whatever. It's like really just recognizing before anything who you're before and allow him to look at you. I was thinking of the Eastern tradition has icons, right? And the idea of an icon is not only that it's a place where you can see a picture of God and like see him. They believe it's not just a picture, but like a place of encounter with God. But you're not just seeing him, but it's a place for him to look at you. And he likes to look at you, actually, right? He rests there. Allow him to rest in the beautiful creation that he made. I love starting prayer by taking time just to be with him. My spiritual director kind of poses the image. It's helpful as I'm consecrated, so have a spousal understanding of the Lord, and ultimately we all have that relationship with him. But he would say, you know, imagine yourself after a long day, like coming home, exhausted, and just like sitting down at the table across from your spouse. And just kind of that moment of the day where you kind of let your hair down. And you're just like, how are ya? You know, just allow your heart to rest and be before him and relish his presence and allow him to relish yours. And again, I'm sure, I don't know if there's adoration at this parish, and I'm sure you all have kind of your own practices, but I think so much of the spiritual life is just starting habits. Sometimes I'm frustrated. I'm like, Lord, it's all about habits. Why do I just struggle with my habits? But just to encourage you, like, that's the source of everything, right? I think so many times we can fall into the temptation of doing. I'm even going to do my prayer life, or I'm going to do the apostolate. Again, all of these are so important, but the foundation and really where the power for anything is, in your apostolates, in your vocations, in your families, is prayer. It really is, because he does the heavy lifting, not us, you know. And so start small. If you're not in a practice of like just having, you know, that heart-to-heart conversation with the Lord, I would say start small, something doable. 5 minutes, in just a quiet place in your home even, and then maybe eventually if you can work out in the chapel. But start small and just grow it, and just allow the Lord to draw you to it, and allow your heart to look forward to it. I think so much of our prayer life too is like allowing ourselves just to relish in his presence. St. Teresa of Avila would speak often of like desire. Desire is so important in prayer. And so allow your heart to like look forward to prayer and desire it, and know that he desires you as well. And then also in prayer, I just encourage you to ask the Lord to help you to see others as he sees them, to practice this delighting in, first and foremost in your prayer, right? So you might start by doing, again, another thing that Ignatius would encourage is the examine prayer. They're kind of looking over the day And it's not, I know I often would do my exam and just like, what did I do wrong today? Right? That's a kind of distorted way of doing your exam in prayer. It's really like, where was the Lord at work today? And wow, Lord, can I recognize you and get behind that? And what are you personally doing in my own heart? So yeah, to like really to look at specific ways and different interactions with others throughout the day. And maybe at this time you just want to ask the Lord to help you to be more attentive and appreciative of the unique gift of each person in your life, right? Or maybe you can recognize that you're frustrated or hurt by someone. And so here it's good to ask the Lord to help you to understand the situation more and process it with him. And to also ask him to share his heart with you, again, this place of intimacy with him, to give you the grace to respond with his love. So this kind of love requires courage and fortitude to look beyond the distressing disguise, as Mother Teresa would say, of another's weakness, or my own weakness, and sinfulness, and to love with a consistency, perseverance, and courage. Yeah. So, and just as we're speaking about prayer, I just wanted to end with a note on Our Lady. She's always the one who's leading us to our Lord's heart and allowing us to actually come to recognize his gaze and to love others. She's the boast of our race, right? She nailed it. She got it right. So we can learn so much from her. And I just had the thought of sharing with you kind of a grace that I've been pondering a lot this year. I had the privilege of going to Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico this past February, which was such a gift. I'd never been there before. And there's so much, if you know, I wish we had an image of Our Lady to point some things out. There's so much to that image and what God and Our Lady was communicating through it. Right, it's the only image that actually came from heaven of Our Lady, because it wasn't painted. It's just kind of imposed upon these really fragile cactus fibers. But I just wanted to point out one thing in particular to share with you that I've been praying with and that has struck me. And I'm getting this from, there's a really great book on Our Lady of Guadalupe that was written by Carl Anderson, who was the previous Supreme Knight for the Knights of Columbus. And Monsignor Chavez, who was a postulator for Juan Diego for the cause of his canonization. It's a really excellent book. But in it, they describe the flowers on her tilma. And there's most of the flowers on her tilma, I didn't really know the symbolism until this past year. But if you look at them, from one direction they look like a smiley face, and from another direction they look like a human heart, like a heart with the arteries coming out. And all of these flowers are connected to her tilma, which is blue, right? So the symbolism, right, in art is like the maroon color is the symbol of like humanity or flesh, and the blue is divinity. So it's Our Lady is human, but she's graced with God's divinity, right? She's immaculate. So the Lord's grace is upon her. So all of these on her tilma are all of these flowers, and the stems of all of those flowers connect to the blue. And so several things struck me about that. First of all, so again, the Aztecs didn't really have their own like written language, but it was so much in pictures and these glyphs or whatever. And so much was communicated through all these symbols on her image. And for the Aztecs, I guess their custom was to believe that humans, like babies were born, they thought without faces. And as they grew and mature, they developed and became more human, and they developed faces. And so these little faces on her tilma are like, and anyway, and it's also connected, so it's a heart and a face. And the heart, they really prized hearts. Anyway, I won't go into it, but they did human sacrifice to get the heart, right? It was very important to like their culture. And so a heart connected with the face kind of represented to them like a mature person, a thriving person. And they would do human sacrifice to appease the gods and to offer to, because the gods were hungry, So God was kind of feeding off humanity. 40,000 human sacrifices, right, a year or something. But in this image, it's like God, the life of these people under Our Lady's mantle, they're receiving their life from God. So God's filling them with life, not humanity. So it's kind of, in a nutshell, her tilma is kind of presenting a culture of life, like a civilization of love, where humanity is thriving. So I just place that image before you, because I just love to imagine myself snuggled up under her, right? She is the one who allows us to know our true worth and our dignity, and to be filled with life, to be filled with love from God Himself. And that's what she wants to do with the women that we're walking with, that we're so privileged to serve, is that she, and that our Lord, through her intercession, will heal their hearts, will restore all the brokenness that might be there, and heal them and heal us in the process. So again, just to underscore just the primacy, the foundation of anything we do in building a culture of life is really that prayer and bringing ourselves, our families, and those that we're privileged to serve under Our Lady's mantle and protection, and asking her to teach us how to bring Jesus to others, as she did in the visitation, and to how to allow us, to have lives transformed by receiving His life anew. So, on that note, we're just going to end with the sisters are going to come up, and we're just going to end with a little prayer to Our Lady, and just encourage you to kind of use this time to, entrust all those that the Lord has already brought to your care, with Walking with Moms in Need, or whatever, wherever you're at in the world, all your family and your intentions. And we'll just ask her, to conform our hearts to Christ, and to teach us how to love.
Protect us with your prayer, guide us, defend us, O Queen of Peace. Our Lady, our Mother, protect us with your prayer, guide us, defend us, O Queen of Peace. Our Lady, our Mother, protect us with your prayer, guide us, defend us, O Queen of Peace.
Our Lady of Guadalupe,